You know that feeling. You're sitting across from a firefighter you've worked with for years. Good person, but something's gone sideways. Performance issues, attitude, maybe something you can't quite put your finger on. And you've got to have that conversation. The one that no one wants to have. You're mentally rehearsing it while you're getting ready for the day. It continues while you're in the car on the way to the station. You know what you want to say, but you're not sure how to say it without blowing up the relationship or getting a grievance filed. I've been there a lot. 40 years in the fire service, 15 of them in training and EMS leadership. I've certainly had more of those conversations than I cared to have. What I didn't have back then that I have now is AI. And today I'm going to show you 4 ways I'm using AI for the parts of the job that nobody talks about. Not report writing, not scheduling, the actual hard stuff. Let's go. I'm Ken Lord, retired battalion chief with over 40 years on the job. I am also over 4 years deep into AI tools. That is before most people knew what ChatGPT was. I built AI Fire Guy because I got tired of watching fire departments get left behind on technology that could actually help them. And I got tired of tech people telling firefighters how to use AI when they've never wore a badge. So let's talk about 4 use cases I actually use. Starting with one that kept me up at night. Company officers and chiefs, how much time do you spend mentally rehearsing a hard conversation before it happens? Studies on leadership show that most managers avoid difficult conversations for an average of up to 3 weeks before finally having them. 3 weeks of lost sleep, 3 weeks of a problem that's getting worse. What if you could walk into that conversation prepared with the right framing, the right tone, anticipating the other person's reaction in about 10 minutes? I feed AI the situation, not names. Never put in names. The behavior I'm seeing, what I've already tried, what outcome I need, and I ask it to help me think through how to approach it. It doesn't just write a script, it coaches me. It identifies places where I might escalate unintentionally. It suggests language that keeps the conversation focused on behavior and impact, not personality. It helps me anticipate where the firefighter might push back and how to respond without getting defensive. Here's what it looks like in practice. We're going to go ahead and open up our ChatGPT. Then what I'm going to do is I have got my prompt saved on another file. So I'm just going to go open up that file right now. And I'm going to take that prompt, copy it, and I'm going to paste it right here into the chat window. And then we'll run it. I gave it a generic case. It's go ahead and grading it on that and telling you what to say and how to say it and some of the different things that you're going to want to steer away from, things you don't want to say. And I thought this was pretty darn cool, right? I'm like, okay, here it is. And then if you want to put in a different kind of issue or something, you can do it right here as well. But then I got to thinking, it's like, well, I wanted to practice. I wanted to kind of role play with me and be that firefighter. So then I wrote a skill for that. A skill is something that you can write in markdown language and then upload it and keep it saved on your device. And then you can paste that skill into any of the different language models. It doesn't matter. That's what's so cool about having that markdown file. Also with the markdown file, whenever you upload that, it actually takes fewer tokens in order for the large language model to work. Now I'm going to go ahead and take and paste that skill into a language model, right? And then so I've copied the code. I'm going to come here, click here, then paste that markdown file right here, right? And now that I've went ahead and did that, I can go ahead and see that right there, right? So now it says a senior firefighter bypassed SCBA accountability during overhaul and removed their mask prematurely. And how are you going to do that? And then what it'll do is it'll give you a little grading rubric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new chat. I'm going to use the voice interaction, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and put in that markdown file. that we were just doing as well. Hi, chat. How you doing today?
And we're ready to jump into whatever you've got in your mind. How are things on your side today?
Things are doing well. I'm recording a video right now for my YouTube channel. But you and I are talking to hopefully hundreds, if not thousands, of people watching this video. And then what I want to do is a little role play. Can we, based on the markdown file that I just pasted into the thing, can you quiz me on a scenario?
I'll throw a scenario at you and we'll use your command rules and rubric to guide how you respond. Let's picture this. You have a trusted senior firefighter who's been showing up late to shift multiple times. How would you start that conversation using the direct entry rule?
Yeah, good morning. Would you mind if you stepped into the office so we can have a word about your tardiness?
That's a solid start. You went straight in, no sugarcoating. Now, keeping the behavior versus personality rule in mind, what specific example of lateness would you highlight next?
Over the last couple of weeks, it has become apparent that you've been showing up 5 to 10 minutes late. So over the last 2 weeks, 6 of your different shifts, you've shown up anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes late.
Perfect. No labels, it's a clear data. Now, before we move on, you'd explain the impact on crew safety or department reputation. How would you frame that next?
Before I get into that, I want to also see if there's anything else that's going on with the firefighter. So can you tell me, is there a specific reason why you've been showing up late?
Great. In alignment with the role, you're opening space for them to own the solution. Once they've shared, you'll tie their behavior to crew readiness. Let's hear how you would highlight the impact.
Just to clarify, whenever you're late, we have to hold someone over for your shift. And when we hold someone over, we have to pay them overtime. And even more importantly, if that individual that is held over for you is moving to another station to work for the day, now we also have to hold that person over, creating even more of a financial burden to the department. Not to mention the impact to the individuals and their families.
Now you pivot to a formal plan. What concrete follow-up would you ask for?
Can you come up with a solution to help ensure that you're making it to work on time?
Great ownership. You'll want to set a specific follow-up date metric. So when would you check in on this solution?
Let me just recap here. So what I'm hearing you say is that you're going to set your alarm clock earlier and then leave your house 15 to 20 minutes earlier so that you can show up to your shift on time. Because after all, early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable, right? So let's pick a date 2 weeks from today where we'll sit down and we'll track your behavior over the last 2 weeks to make sure that we have no further instances of you being tardy for work. If there are any other instances of you being tardy, we'll have to take disciplinary action. You're a good firefighter, and I know once we get this back on track, you'll continue to be your great self.
Timeline, gave a concrete metric, and ended up support leadership. Direct, fair, and forward focused. Nice.
Great. Now, based on our conversation, can you go ahead and using that rubric, go ahead and grade my performance?
Clarity, you were that's fine. For objectivity, you used specific examples. Fine. Your tone stayed calm, but again, for pivoting, you acknowledged their perspective and kept it focused. So a strong 5 there. Finally, the go signal, you locked in a follow-up with a measure. And then a 5. That's top marks across the board. Essential.
Thank you very much for your time today.
You're very welcome. I'm glad we got to chat together. If you need any more practice or anything else for your YouTube crew, just keep leading forward.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Then I went over to Manus and I said, you know what? Let's throw it into Manus and see if we can't build an agent around that. So let's go ahead and pull that up here real quick. So we pulled it into Manus, right? We went through that whole thing. I put in that markdown file that we did. And then Manus says, hey, how would you like if we made a website that went along with that, right? And it built this tactical leadership coach project to-do list, right? And it's got all these different things. And in 8 minutes and 35 seconds, I had a website. It was already there. It's like, look at that. How cool is that, right? So let's go ahead and open that up. All right. So here it is, right? And then we're going to go ahead and let's say, you know what? Let's go ahead and start our training. And it comes up with these several different scenarios. And I went ahead and picked the classic tardiness. I went through that and everything, and it went back and forth. Now, this isn't voice like it was with ChatGPT. This was all typing, and we went through that. I went through the exact same thing. And what was so cool is at the end of the session, I could see the history, right? So I did this whole session here, and it actually gave me a critique of my performance, right? It made sure that it listed out all of my strengths, any areas that I needed to improve upon. So that was pretty cool. The full workflow, including the exact prompt structure in the Markdown file, will be in the resources I'll mention at the end. NIOSH reports, line of duty death investigations, near miss narratives. We read them. We share them at morning briefing, but are we actually extracting everything there is to learn from them? Most of the time, no. Because doing a real contributing factor analysis takes time and expertise that most company officers don't have on a Tuesday morning between calls. I paste a near miss or incident report into AI and ask it to identify contributing factors using established frameworks, the Swiss cheese model, human factors analysis, crew resource management gaps. It surfaces things that are easy to miss when you're reading for the headline. If you feed in, it can also cross-reference patterns across multiple reports if you feed them in sequence. Suddenly, you're doing the kind of analysis that safety officers at major departments spend weeks on in about 20 minutes. Watch what happens when I run this report through. And I'm going to paste in a prompt that we made ahead of time. Also, I'm going to upload a near miss, and then I'm going to let AI do its magic. And here we have our contributing factors analysis of the Williams incident, engine burnover from October 6, 2023. And then it goes through the Swiss cheese model. What's really nice is it refers back to the document, and you can click on it and see exactly where it references the document. Here's our human factors and crew resource management, environmental and tactical traps, critical decision points, and then the tailboard talk gives 3 bullets for your morning briefing. I thought this was very cool. This is stuff that it would have taken me hours, if not days, in order to publish and push out to all my crews. This is exactly the kind of tool that should be in every training officer's kit. The full workflow, including how to prompt for different frameworks and how to turn the output into a usable training brief, is in the resource pack. How long does it take you to build a good tabletop exercise? A realistic one with a solid scenario, well-timed injects, discussion questions that actually create tension, and an after-action review template ready to go. If you're doing it right, hours, possibly even days if you're building it from scratch. I can do it in about 15 minutes now. I give the AI the parameters, the occupancy type, hazmat considerations, staffing levels, what competencies I want to test, approximate duration. It builds me a complete tabletop package, scenario narrative, inject timeline, facilitation guide, discussion questions, and an after-action review template. And here's what makes it genuinely useful. It doesn't just generate a generic scenario. When I give it specific details, local geography, your department's resources, the SOPs I want to stress test, it incorporates all of it. Let me show you what a 15-minute tabletop exercise looks like. We're going to go ahead and open up a new window here in ChatGPT. I'm going to paste in my prompt for the tabletop exercise. Go ahead and start the exercise. Here we go. It gave us an exercise as dead indecision. And it kind of gives you your different stuff here, your site and hazard specs, 2-story residential, type 5 wood frame apartment complex, fire originated in the second floor kitchen, possible attic extension. Here's your weather. You're on the end of a dead end street. Hydrant at the entrance is out of service. Overhead power lines, narrow courtyard, access to Charlie's side. And here you can see the image that it gives us isn't quite a 2-story apartment complex, but honestly, what you could do is you can come down here and take the dispatch and the arrival report, copy that, and then ask if it can give us an image that conveys the following. Can you create an image that conveys following? I'm going to just paste in. And let's just see what it gives us. There we go. That's much better. A little unrealistic that we wouldn't have the actual naming a command on a vest, but still, it conveys a pretty good picture. So much better than what it used to do. Now, if you wanted to, you could easily ask ChatGPT to role play with you. And you role play and allow me to go through this scenario. I don't know about you, but I know for me, I find by doing this in an environment where I feel safe to fail and get the reps, it's so much easier than doing it at a command class and for the group of your peers. Here's our dispatch: Engine 1, Engine 4, Engine 7, Truck 2, Battalion 1, respond to 2147 Cedar Court, Cross a Willow, multiple callers reporting smoke and flames from a second-story apartment. Possible elderly resident inside. Now you can go ahead and click on the dictate button here, and you can give your on-scene report. Engine 1's on-scene 2-story garden-style residential apartment complex. Address is given. Heavy smoke coming from the Bravo Charlie side of the second floor. Engine 1 will be fire attack. We have our own hydrant. Engine 2, I'll need you to help set up an out team. Engine 1 will be assuming Cedar command. Then it gives you your first inject, and you go from there. This is pretty cool stuff, especially if you're a firefighter that's practicing for a promotional exam. What better way? Or even if you're just starting out in your career and you want to become an acting company officer, what a great way to practice. Just make sure that someone's validating what you're doing is according to your department. So this one alone is worth the price of admission. The full prompt set for customizing scenarios for your department is in the resources. Here's what that doesn't get talked about enough. Promotional exams are not always a level playing field. Firefighters with mentors, with connections, with time to study, they have an advantage. Firefighters working extra shifts, raising families, without a network of people who've been through it, they're at a disadvantage. AI changes all of that. AI is the great equalizer. A firefighter preparing for a captain's exam can feed AI their department's SOPs, the reading list, the competency areas, and then essentially have a personal coach available 24/7. It generates practice oral board questions. It evaluates their answers and gives feedback. It identifies weak areas and drills them harder. It runs scenario-based questions that mirror what a real oral board panel would ask. Here's what a practice session looks like. I have ChatGPT open right now, but literally you could use any of them, right? You could use Claude, you could use Gemini, you could use Manus. It doesn't matter. All the large language models have their pros and cons. For this exercise, I just have ChatGPT open. I'm going to go ahead and paste in my prompt. We'll go ahead and hit start and see what the AI gives us. I will function as a senior fire command evaluator conducting a realistic captain's oral board simulation. I will evaluate you firmly and objectively using the 4 pillars. Of course, this would be so much better if I had put in the department's SOP, the study material for the test. It would be much more specific for each department. But this is a little generic, but it's still got a whole lot of value. It says upload or paste the department's materials to begin. Now I'm just going to tell it to go ahead and run the simulation using general fire knowledge. It's going to start me off with a scenario. So this works out really well. It says residential structure fire, 2-story, type 5, wood frame, single family dwelling in a cul-de-sac. Light winds pushing from Alpha to Charlie. Upon arrival, we see heavy smoke. The fire from the second floor, Bravo Charlie bedroom. A frantic neighbor yelling that an elderly male lives there and might be inside. There's no vehicles in the driveway. We have 3 firefighters. Our truck is 4 minutes out, and the battalion chief is 6 minutes out. Next 2 engines, 8 minutes out. Hydrant is 300 feet past the residence. As a first arriving company officer, walk us through the initial radio report. The full workflow includes how to set up the AI with your specific exam parameters, how to build a 30-day study plan, and the prompt sequence that generates the most realistic oral questions are all in the resource. 4 use cases. All of them I actually use. None of them the stuff you've already heard 100 times. Difficult conversations, near-miss analysis, tabletop exercise building, promotional exam prep. If any of these hit home for you, I've put together a resource, the full AI workflow for each of these 4 use cases, exact prompts, step-by-step instructions ready for use. The link is in the description. If you found this useful, subscribe. I put out content specifically for fire service leaders navigating AI, and I try to keep it real and practical, not theoretical. And if you want to talk about how your department could start using AI in a structured way, not just individual firefighters experimenting, but a real implementation, reach out. The link for that is in the description as well. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.